avoid that chance of her just getting that one key opportunity to go, right, I've got loads of stack now, let's go in. But we're loading up. Thank you all so much for your patience, as we did have some understandable delays taking place. But now our first map, Flea, is gonna begin its exile.
Indeed, just the final countdown kicking off now. The have funs are being exchanged. This is it. Stage 3, week 2, kicking it off on Spart1e's point of view. Two fast mobile champions going at it. Looks like Spart1e is going to get himself heavy rail and also get a nice little chunk of opening damage as well. This is how he has to approach this matchup. Railgun is going to be key to his success, and we know that when Spart1e's rail is on, he's among the best in the business.
I like the fact that he's able to kind of instantly pick up that heavy and put himself in position to get the perfect shot as Mega is taken. I mean, already it has somewhat even the odds in stack. Fairly different. And now the items spawn again. Spart1e's going ham to try and push forward and stop it, but Base one step ahead. He knows you're going to take the heavy first because you were already on Mega position earlier on. So now I'm going to get that rail angle ready to rock. However, not able to return fire, and Spart1e gets a clean first frag.
Good read of the spawn as well. Spart1e now is in a really good position to cement control. There's a lot of delay between the two items. If he can pick up heavy now, he should be able to make his way over to Mega. Still quite a bit of time before that. Looks like we're getting another fight, and the rockets are once more sublime. That first kill opened the floodgates. Ketchup and Garpy, or Spart1e rather. Still,
no, it was meant to be game one. Don't worry, it was meant to be map one.
Yeah, but Spart1e now really kicking it off strong.
A fantastic sequence, perfectly executed, and Base trying to kind of get that upper hand on that second frag, you know, stopping it from taking place. But this is a bad situation. Spart1e's taken a ton of damage, has very little spam potential, and he's going to just have to do everything he can given the circumstances. No way he was escaping that one, but now keeping the item timing is in mind. Misses the rail. Hang on a minute. That is going to give Spart1e some kind of opportunity, but Spart1e not having a rail means he has to be pretty much all in. Oh, and he can't secure it.
It was a mistake going for the tri-bolt and insisting on it so long in that fight. Spart1e barely did 80 points of damage with the tri-bolt, whereas using shotgun, rockets, LG, pretty much anything else would have done more consistent damage on his opponent, and that allowed Base to string together two frags, two rails, make it 3. Beautiful. This is turning out to be quite a brawl. 6 frags already, 2.5 minutes into exile. And I like Base's positioning right now. He knows that Spart1e needs the railgun, so he's just keeping an eye on it and punishes the pickup immediately as well.
With that heavy being taken, Spart1e knows that he has to make his presence known, has to get some kind of damage, at least being able to hear the heavy, is able to time it. But this is always a scary game to play. There's a delay between the two of them right now. Both players well aware. Spart1e keeping that timing in mind. As long as he can hear it every single time, he's able to plan his next attack, right? But in the meantime, need a couple of rails because Base, healthy. Oh, the big push! Oh, that's a good one.
Base kind of just messed up the aim right there. The damage fell short, and that allows Spart1e to get 2 frags in a row. I don't disapprove of the push. It worked out nicely, but he just couldn't get the damage in, and then he got bounced up in the air by one of the rockets and was unable to keep track of Spart1e's exact location, and that allowed the Swedes to get a lot of free damage in. Now Base is the first one onto heavy though. It's like we're basically just getting a repeat, but this time in the opposite direction. Loving the push from Spart1e actually.
A
Dropping
nice
down,
decision.
going for a sneaky rail.
I think that was a push that Base was not factoring in. You know, I've just taken heavy, I'm Sorlag, I'm Giant. Unlikely you're going to push down right here, and he gets a little bit of bonus damage. However, Base with the angle already good to go. Forced to drop down, and this is going to create an interesting play. Right, rail in 2. Unable to return it, though, is Base. And now, a good opportunity to jump in and land the super shotgun. Thank you very much. And it's just in time for a heavy to spawn. And Base only having an LG in hand. Man, only just spawned. He has nothing else. This is allowing Spart1e to continue the lead. And he's going to have even less to worry about. Only a plasma. Let's go.
Spart1e's game sense is so on point on this map. He's always reading the spawn correctly. What I am liking is how Base is going back up those stepping stones. You very rarely see players do that because it just adds a lot of extra risk to that situation. But Base is fearless and lands a beautiful drop-down rail as well. We're not even halfway through this map, so plenty of time to make a comeback happen. Spart1e gets deleted by the asset, and now Base looks like he might be able to set up a consistent rotation, but Spart1e's already there. Rockets from behind into the heavy machine gun will net him the frag and the mega as a reward as well.
There's such a delay between the two of them right now that Base, yes, he has a giant stack, but this is a chance to try and cement yourself a little bit, get some damage on the board, pushing him with the super shotgun. The injection allows him to absorb. Is it enough to take the frag? Looks for the double rocket. Right, what's the spawn? Who's going to spawn closer? Base. Definitely getting the favorable exchange right there, as there maintains a giant delay between the two main items. He has heavy side. He has a rocket launcher. If he catches Spart1e now, Spart1e's going to be sweating a little bit.
There's already been 6,000 points of damage dealt this game. We're only halfway through. And Spart1e looks like he has to give up Mega. Base finally got both in a row. Is this a turning point for the Russian? Can he manifest himself on the map and get consistent control going? Heavy will be going his way as well. Spart1e is in no shape to fight. Just trying to play an evasive game with the defensive railgun. He needs armor.
Now, unfortunately, armor is something that is not available to him. Base has cycled around the entire map and has denied every light armor along the way, and that is his opportunity. The fact that Spart1e, he's going to spawn now, damage over time, he has got to pick up some health, and he is going to be able to stop the bleeding, but that isn't going to stop this potential comeback that's being made now from Base. Now, to get one heavy, Spart1e gets a light, so that's more than he wanted before, more than he was able to get. A bit too obvious on the light armor, and he knows it, but even then, he's so weak. 3 hit points left.
I'm so surprised that Base didn't just push in for the finish.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, he will at last still get the frag. I'm liking how disciplined Base's comeback is. He's just not overexerting himself, not taking dangerous fights. He knows that Spart1e, when he spawns, needs armor. There's very little available to him, and Base just rotates the items, keeps looking for these advantageous angles, knowing that even if he loses in these engagements, all he has to do is some damage every single time, and Spart1e will eventually collapse.
A well-played moment there from Spart1e, though, right into the center point, an area of the map where sound can be your greatest enemy or worst, depending on the situation. I like the fact that Spart1e was just making his position so hard to read that he was able to slip out. The question is, can he make something of this? Unfortunately, he does take one rail, a rail he very much did not want to take. And the light armor swiftly deleted, and only one armor left. The fake rocket jump Base, you cheeky man! Oh! Down you go.
Of the spawn into the hole. I like, just Base knows that Spart1e is so reliant on the railgun, and he punishes it every single time. Look, he's once again set up, keeping an eye open up the railgun, knowing that, hey, if Spart1e's gonna go for this, I am ready, and I will hurt him. Shotgun, railgun, doesn't matter. This man is going to pay dearly for his insolence, thinking that he can just get away with picking up one of these weapons on my watch. And now, the scoreline is starting to evolve rapidly into Base's favor. Spart1e will fall once more. Mega is there to immediately restack. Base even gets a small armor to boot. Situation is now starting to look a little dire for Spart1e, especially if he's going to drop this frag too.
Unlikely that Base is going to make any kind of mistakes that allow Spart1e back into this map, because as Base retreats and takes damage, he knows he's Sorlag. He can just soak up the armor, use that speed to his advantage in a way that Spart1e is just unable to challenge. And now we have hit that critical point where Spart1e needs to be aggressive. You know, there's about a couple of minutes left on this map. You can't play the long game anymore, because if you get a frag on Base, he's just going to spawn with a stack that's probably bigger than yours anyway. And this is very much a done deal. It was a done deal over a minute ago, maybe even more. And Base playing that long game flawlessly. Spart1e had such a good start here, Flea, but the second things get locked in against him. It's just so hard to make that comeback.
That's the standard Base game plan, right? Even when Spart1e got the lead, Base read him perfectly. identified exactly what Spart1e was going for, which is take these railgun fights to slowly etch away at his opponent's stack and make his way back into it. And Base just set himself up in the center top area of the map, and every single time that Spart1e tried going for these items or weapons, Base was there to punish him. And so he slowly closed the gap over time. Spart1e keeps spawning, no armor to his name, nothing to work with, and Base ultimately closes the gap, takes the lead, and now Spart1e does get a few more frags on the board, but it will not matter as we finish with 10,000 points of damage dealt combined by these players. What an absolute brawl that was.
And looking at the items themselves, Base was able to have significantly more of them. It's reflected in Spart1e having less of those opportunities where he has got more of the lights, and that always kind of spells the tale that you need to know. Someone's being forced into the less favorable parts of the map, and that was definitely one of those opportunities. Now, to give Spart1e his credit, he had a phenomenal start, and he played the matchup perfectly. He had the perfect cycle on the two items, based with the immediate adaptation, though, and that's an element of Base that can definitely be a bit more scary, I think, Flea, is you hit him with one opening rail, the very next time that opportunity happens, he has that angle prepared. And that's just the experience coming through, you know, and the player versus player element, where you need to be constantly full of surprises to stop the comeback from being locked in. Base had all the time in the world to make that comeback, and he did. The real turnaround moment, Flea, was when, you know, about 4 minutes or so left on the map, you were saying, like, this could be his opportunity, and you were right, because at that point of you saying it, Base had just taken all of the light armors on the map, and I'm just sitting there like, what is Spart1e going to do to stop this comeback? Like, he's going to get hit by a rail, he's going to be forced on the back foot, it's going to be hard for him to establish himself on the items, and that was just the beginning of the end.
The stack disadvantage just proved to be a bit too much for Spart1e in the end. The game plan was solid, but like you said, Base adapted perfectly and then made such good use of that tremendous starting stack that even if Spart1e secured the frag, Base just spawned with such an amount of health and armor to work with that it was just like, okay, well, I'm already here. I'm ready to take a fight for the next item. I'm ready to deny you the railgun once more. So perfectly played and executed by Base. Now, map 2 might be something else entirely. It is a Veil of Neff, Spart1e running the BJ Blazkowicz versus Base on the Death Knight. So a whole lot of damage potential, which just ties into what we've just seen already.
Very much so. And we've seen how happy both players are to throw down. One of those maps that demands it again, and the champion picks reflect in that. You know, that dual wield versus the flame strike. Both players having great opportunities to just use that extra tool. You know, whenever one of those items is going to spawn and you think you're in a good position, either flame strike into any kind of big damage or dual wield, it's going to be that who has the next upper hand. Very similar to an Exile, in fact, but now less focused on the stack difference. This is just going to be two nice and mediums with an opportunity to just explode and delete. And you know what? That's how I like it. Looks like we're loading into our next map again, so this gap is going to be smaller. How about that? Straight into our next map. Love it.
Let's go indeed. So for those of you just joining us, map 1 went in the favor of Base. Now this is map 2 of this 3-map series. Spart1e running the BG on Veil, tried and tested champion, right? We see top players run him on this map all the time. Just takes a little bit more foresight, I would say, than the Death Knight, right? Because the Death Knight ability is just, you can use it as a panic button. You get caught by surprise, you just unload the flames. But if you're playing BJ, there's no way of doing that, because pulling out both of those weapons, realigning your aim, takes quite a bit of effort and time. So you're gonna have to pop it well in advance before coming around the corner, trying to read and catch your opponent off guard. And that is something that we did see Spart1e do a fair bit, at least in the beginning of the previous map, before Base completely turned the tables on him.
Now, I suppose it could be easier said than done, seeing as we are on Veil of all maps, but with a reactionary ability can come the ability to bait it out, try and force it to be wasted. And, you know, knowing Spart1e, trying to set things up, I wonder if that is going to be on his mind. Try and catch Base in a position where Flame Strike is not available, and then you've got dual wield, and then you're basically dealing with a Death Knight. This is a abilityless champion. What's he going to do? Get the Flaming Gauntlet out? Yeah, right.
Massive delay on the Mega from Spart1e, still hasn't picked it up yet. That's going to be nearly 20 seconds of a delay. If he can get heavy now, he is in a very good spot because I don't think Base has any clue that the item has been denied. It looks like Base is just going to give it up for free. Base is going to prioritize going for the lightning gun and rocket, so he wants the weapons rather than taking away this item. And this is helping out Spart1e so nicely, because now Base is showing up looking for the mega. Where is it? It ain't there. It ain't there for another 5 seconds. And that allows Spart1e to get both of them, hopefully at least.
Oh, but they trade.
That's an interesting trade, but Spart1e gets a really good spawn. LG rockets in his favor, and he gets the mega to work with too.
I still call that a victory. And now what can you get from it? The delay between these two items continues. I even like that little bit of drop down from Spart1e. You know, we're checking things out from Base's point of view, but the moment Spart1e spawned and he knew he had Mega Side, he just pushes down with his LG and looks for the rocket. He wanted to get an extra frag just in case. Base taking the less attractive option, however, will get hasted right there as Spart1e secures himself a second frag. With the item in mind, Base doesn't want to push forward. That rocket launcher far too tempting, fresh off spawn. And Base, that is the discipline we talked about. A lot of players would have tried to take that rocket right there.
Was a very calculated play by Spart1e as well, because he knew that the flame strike couldn't be up already. So that's why he went in for the rockets, blocked Base in a very close quarters area, which you usually don't want to do against Death Knight. But Spart1e, of course, was well aware that the ability was nowhere yet ready. That gave him the confidence to take that fight. Now Base sitting mighty pretty on the mega. Dual tribal. Now that's something you don't see every day. I don't think Base meant to drop down there. Spart1e will. Hyper aggressive, knows that he's got his opponents on the rope, wants to make more of an effort, but he's still lacking railgun, so he can't easily take those long distance fights. And the tribal is really his go-to long range weapon.
And if we can keep this delay giant, that's going to help us out. Because if we take the item far enough away, Base continues to be out of that all-important information. Hard to be a calculated player. No, wait! Yeah, he has to suicide. I actually really like that play from Spart1e. He knows there's no health nearby. He has to just respawn as fast as possible. He needs to keep presence on any of the items that he can.
No sense in delaying the inevitable. Spart1e well aware of that. Just wanted to get back into the fight as soon as possible.
Oh, but that's a critical moment, Flea, because the delay between these two items and Spart1e keeping it unpredictable gave him such an upper hand. But with that exchange, which is basically a trade, you know, it's -1 for -1. In this position, now the information belongs to Base. But will he go down? Mega is taken. That mid-air would have been so good. Oh, not quite.
Really liking the rocket jump, horizontal rocket jump by Base to give himself a speed boost through the teleporter. But he showed up on the item just a moment too soon. Spart1e now has got to be careful, he's railable. Even the health regen isn't going to help him now. The double rockets are doing a good amount of damage, are going to keep his opponent at base from now. And Mega's
Rail
about to
was
spawn.
a scale to hit though, Flea, because he was so close to actually getting the heavy and it pushed him away.
Yeah. Spart1e just refusing to use the railgun so far. He's only landed 1 shot. Fired 2. But the tribals working out quite nicely for him.
And his star weapon so far. The objective of just denial. Keep him away.
It's not often that you see Quake Pro League players do more damage with Tribolt than LG and Railgun combined. But Spart1e is somehow making it work and staying in the lead while he's doing it.
This is another position where Base needs to be careful, but he knows it. Heavy the next objective, so while Spart1e is no doubt going to be around in heavy location, it allows Base to pick up some of the other items that he's lacking. In this case now, he's in position for Mega, but I think it's going to be damage as the first objective. Looking to set up for a rail angle, Spart1e. And both of these players just so prepared. Unfortunately, that missed rail is going to be a green light for Spart1e to push forward. If that rail landed, it might have been a different story, but Spart1e with the punish instantly.
Base was just counting on that flame strike to do something big in order to come out on top of that fight, but he just completely missed, didn't do any damage. Spart1e, knowing very well that he can take another railgun, that his opponent didn't have an LG to push him back, so he just absolutely pushes ahead on the bounce pad. Good rockets here to boot as well. Base aggressive play and will manage to survive with 13 points of health. first frag for base, at least the first one that actually counts on the scoreboard.
Now that is a rather curious position because base, whoever won that exchange, the rest of the map potentially lied in the balance. With that Mega about to spawn, Spart1e a chance to extend his lead even further, but now was looking to push forward towards Mega, punished heavily for it. And right as he's on the back foot, base comes in. I still ask now, as we hit that 5-minute warning, Spart1e had such a beautiful prediction on base jumping forward towards Mega anyway. He had so much damage, but just one rocket that just didn't get the damage he was looking for. And it could have started this whole sequence. Base now. No rail. A little bit of that damage, but Spart1e does not want to overcommit. Why? He knows that Incendimus ready to go.
That is such an important factor to keep into account when you're Spart1e right now. The Flame Strike at any moment can just delete you, as it does right there. Speak of the devil and you shall receive. Spart1e, though, relentless on the push. LG is all he needs, forces base massively on the defensive. It looks like Spart1e is going to use the time and the freedom he bought himself to just pick up all the weapons that he needs, get himself onto the Mega, and now set up for Heavy as well. So he's giving base a lifeline. The Russian player will survive this encounter despite only being on 25 points of health. But Spart1e has bought himself control instead.
This is base. A position where he is at his most comfortable, playing on these defensive angles, knowing he has to be really careful. The Flame Strike does enough damage to at least make Spart1e sweat a little bit, backing off. However, in a much better position to get control. The missed rail. I actually really like that choice. Spart1e, instead of going for a difficult rail there, knowing the rail missed, he just takes a tri-bolt damage. And it's enough to keep him away, keep the control. We have 2.5 minutes left on the map. What's the rush? No rush at all, mate.
Really good push from Spart1e right there. He just knew that he couldn't leave base alive endlessly because the hourglasses spawn down towards railgun. So every single time he shows up, base has that flame strike ready to go. These defensive rockets are obscene. Spart1e, how is this happening? Base, 3 points of health. Spart1e doing slightly better, but base has got the better resources to stack back up. That should have absolutely been a frag for the Swede.
Oh.
But those defensive rockets and the flame strike just proved to be too much. Direct rocket to the face, and base tied it all up once more. Catch up.
The fact that he was within heavy position just 1 second earlier than Spart1e was how that whole sequence came to pass. The dual LGs, and in a cruel twist of fate, it is now Spart1e that is too early on Mega. We're getting deja vu, but looking in a mirror, as now base is on the item, looking for a rail, misses the shot, misses the second shot. That gives Spart1e room to breathe that he arguably shouldn't have had. However, the lead, the control now belongs to base all the way, and with just over a minute left on the clock, this could be the map-ending fight. However, base just not able to land the damage that he wants. Man's on fire, put him out. Stop, drop, and roll, BJ.
Base knows that the ability has been used. He knows that his opponent is stuck, but that tri-bolt, it's got a nasty bite if it connects in full. So he does decide not to push in just yet. Instead goes back to the Mega. He knows that he's in a better position as we enter the final minute of this map. Just going to sit on Mega, pick up heavy. Spart1e now massively outstacked, and base is aware of this. I wouldn't even be surprised if base slow plays this up until he has the flame strike ready to go once more.
10 seconds could be a lifetime when there's left a minute on the clock. And both players sticking to this choke point. They both know how critical this Mega is, either taking it or just getting information. If Spart1e dipped out to try and position himself for heavy, he would have lost timing on Mega. And if we enter the inevitable sudden death, both of these items will be critical. But now, heavy, base drops down. Spart1e, he can't risk it. He knows now that Flame Strike is ready. If he gets hit now, it's over.
Very curious to see how Spart1e is going to approach this. Trying to juke his opponent, successfully doing so as well. Is he going to make a move on the Mega? Shows his face, lands one rail, but base gets the item. This is so bad, Spart1e!
Oh! I think really, yeah, it was the taking the fight on Mega, you know, and hitting the rail before Mega gets taken. That's something that base is going to look at and go, Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there was that one defensive play from base when Spart1e had both of the major items. His opponent was starved for resources, and base just lands a direct rocket, 80 damage rocket, a 50, as Spart1e is trying to chase him down towards the rocket room. That just changed the outcome of this game. That should have 100% been a frag for Spart1e. I don't know if we're going to see it in the replay now, but it was a crucial decider where everything changed, because Spart1e was looking so good to run away with the scoreline, but then base somehow shut down his push, lived barely.
You can see the head shake, because that was the critical moment. The fight where Spart1e had a perfect call out on just him essentially pulling a 180 towards Rocket and looking for Mega, and then everything else after this point was the slowest, methodical. Oh, that's such a good direct. I saw that one from Spart1e's point of view. I'm so glad we got base's POV on that one. But yeah, this was that moment. Making his presence known, looking for that kind of extra bonus rail, but not able to land the shot. That was a green light. But it's, again, kind of characteristic of Spart1e. He goes for those giant plays because he has faith in his aim. He has faith in those decisions. If those rails landed all the way through, base wouldn't have been as confident, I think, to make that push. You know, Spart1e could have just dipped back there. He could have allowed the Mega. He could have tried to once again play the long game, but I just think you don't want to allow base, with the likes of Death Knight, with that much control, with a Flame Strike that was still ready, with loads of ammo. I mean, it would have created such a hard problem. He probably wanted to just cement that now, and it just didn't work out for him.
I mean, the pressure just mounts on Spart1e in such a situation, right? He knows that sooner rather than later, he's gonna have to make something happen, and he wants it to be on his terms. He doesn't want it to be him coming around the corner, Flame Strike to the face, and that is why he realized, you know, I've got all the weapons, I've got my ability, I know where base is right now. This is as good as an opportunity as any. I set up here at Mega and juke him around a little bit, try to land some exit rails, and then I'm the first one to get onto the heavy, because that was his game plan, right? Do a bit of damage at Mega, move on to heavy, try to deny base entering the room, maybe even whip out the dual LG if he's coming from the top so he can't drop down. That was kind of Spart1e's battle plan, but unfortunately for him, just didn't pan out that way. I don't think it was such a bad fight to take, perhaps lingered around a little too long down at that health bubble below the teleporter, but still, close game that really could have been either player's win.
But we're now going to go into our final map here between the two, Ruins of Sarnath, and this is a matchup that we always, I think, keep a keen eye on. It's that Nyx versus the Visor, but it will be Nyx on the hand of base, and this is where you just kind of know the game plan he's going to have before we even begin, because he's got Nyx here. It's going to be rail heavy, it's going to be defensive, but at the same time, Spart1e, that extra piece of information thanks to Piercing Sight. But you look at this matchup now and you always think, how is the Visor player going to approach this? Are they going to use it on reaction to Ghost Walk? Are they going to use it regardless to set up and maybe put you in a situation where the Ghost Walk won't really be much of a game changer? The closing, or the opening, complete opposite of what I meant, few minutes of that map is where I think we get a lot of information given.
Absolutely. I mean, Visor versus Nyx is one of the very few situations where you can actually speak of a hard counter in terms of abilities when it comes to Quake, right? The Piercing Sight allows you to keep perfect track of Nyx even when she uses her invisibility. But on the other hand, if you hang on to it and just wait for that one opportunity, you're denying yourself so much utility. And it looks like Spart1e is just right off the bat going to pop that ability. He's even trying to bait base. Picks it up, goes for the pummel! Can he find him? Base reappears behind him on LG. I like the play here from Spart1e. He's just gonna go for Mega.
Oh, that was so good!
Oh, good start. Can he make something more happen? Gets base off the spawn. Nice little rail as well.
What I loved about that sequence so much, Flea, was that in opening up with Piercing Sight, he knew that base delayed the Mega. So he's able to kind of just work that into his plan. Again, Spart1e so heavily focused on these items that it's a very Spart1e play to make, but the all or nothing, I mean, if he missed that rail, we could still very much be in a 0-0 situation. But what a clutch sequence to begin. Now, looking for more denial. Base. Ghost Walk still not up. Ooh, nice. Can't get a trade though.
good use of the Ghost Walk, or the Piercing Sight rather. The moment that he gets the kill, he uses it because he knows he's weak, he's tender, and doesn't want to be bum rushed off the spawn. So by doing that, he puts up a barrier between himself and the opponent, even gets a rail off, and now survives with a nice little rotation on the items. He just has to get up to Mega, and that is easier said than done. It looks like Base doesn't even want to contest. Just doesn't have the stack to do it, doesn't have all the weapons yet either. And that will allow Spart1e to get the Mega as well.
And in typical Spart1e fashion, there remains a substantial delay between the two. And as long as he can keep this delay on the items, kind of gives you opportunities to split your resources a little bit. Ghost Walk saves it, and Base uses it until the last minute. However, that will narrowly delay when he can pick up the heavy, which might make actually saving his skin here with the rail. The fact that Spart1e just spawned with one does create that opportunity. You know, if Base didn't have that Ghost Walk there, I think that he very much would have been able to get in and out.
I wonder if Spart1e will be able to keep this up, Ketchup, because this is exactly what we've seen in the first two maps, right? Spart1e comes out swinging, does so well in those opening moments on every single map so far, this one included, but then it just starts to crumble, and Base adapts accordingly. It starts mounting a comeback, and now Spart1e caught out, doesn't have a rail, doesn't have LG. And Base just plays the long distance game, lands that opening rail, and then takes it mid-range, where he knows that Spart1e can't retaliate without any of the weapons he needs. It's a really clever play by the Russian there.
It's upsetting in a way, because this is some absolute phenomenal play from Spart1e, both in execution and strategy. I feel like it just so happens that he's going up against Base, who is one of the players that is most known for this immediate click of a finger adaptation. And it just so happens that even though Spart1e is playing this incredible game of Quake, Base just so happens to be the opponent who just completely turns it around. We're only 3 minutes in. Spart1e had such a wonderful start, yet here we are. 2 frags in the lead for Base.
Base was at 3 points of health when the Mega spawned. One more tickle of LG is all Spart1e needed to get himself a frag, tie it all up, get Mega set up for heavy. Now he does manage to secure himself that major item, but he is 2 frags behind. And this is something that you mentioned before the series even started, Ketchup. Chasing down a Nyx, especially one played by Base on this map, it's a tall order. Ghost Walk.
Oh, just in time.
Reappears at just the right moment. Hang on, Base!
What?
Super aggressive out of nowhere. Spart1e unprepared. Does secure the trade. Gauntlet on gauntlets.
Oh.
Almost all the way, but Base is the first to switch onto the machine gun and further extend his lead.
Being able to actually collect was really the thing that allowed to even survive the rail. We trade Gauntlet for rail, fresh off spawn. Who survives that? It will be Spart1e in position. However, you know, lacking that rocket launcher does mean that it's going to be LG or rail against the likes of a Nyx. That's not going to be the easiest fight to take. However, we should be able to stop that temporarily now. Pushing forward he is, and Base. This is that long game we were expecting to see. Spart1e has a full stack. Both items, in fact. Base, nowhere to be found. Why is that? Because he wants you to have it. He doesn't mind right now. As long as he's keeping the defensive plays. I mean, that was a cheeky rocket.
Once again, Base in the same corner. Is Heavy gonna spawn on time? It will. Spart1e at least manages to deny that. Can he find the rail? Base leaves the room. Shot won't connect just yet. And now Mega's about to spawn in just a few seconds. Base is going to leave it up. Doesn't want to take any risk. Confident in his evasive plays. But Spart1e, what are you doing? That was risky from Spart1e. If Base had just walked into the room, he would have gotten away with a major item too. But Spart1e was looking for damage, and it's those kind of unorthodox, unpredictable plays that he is going to have to rely on if he wants to still win this. Good rockets! 1, 2, 3, all he needs. Base drops down.
Did allow Spart1e, you know, it took him a long time to take that Mega. He knows that with Base playing this game plan, it's so unlikely he was going to just turn up at Mega. It gives you a lot more time than you might think, and it made him healthy to drop down. And on a map like Ruins, this delay between the 2 items can definitely be enough to make something happen. They spawn so close together. However, Ace, the retreating game again. He has to deny, and I love the in and out, using the Ghost Walk specifically to steal your ticket.
The base had such little stack before picking up the heavy that it's barely even going to put him above that base 75 armor. That gives Spart1e the courage that he needs to push in. Nice little rocket to rail! Look at that, Spart1e finding his mojo, getting into the groove of things. Good rocket. Spart1e's use of the piercing side catch-up has been sublime so far. He's gotten so much damage and information, using it at almost the exact right time.
Oh!
Nice little rocket too. Once again, the Swede is in the lead.
Now, this is where things can definitely shift as base. Trying to play nice and slow, he needs to figure out what Spart1e's doing. When does he take the item? Right now, a bit of extra information for base. With this heavy about to spawn, he has got to get out of there. Problem is as well, it's not just these main items that have been taken away from base, it's weapons. Rocket was all he had for that whole life.
Spart1e, I love the movement right there. Take a few steps backward just to force the spawn exactly where he wants it and gets a rail off as well. Spart1e's game sense is just on point. This is so reminiscent of those first few minutes of Exile, where he was catching base of the spawn time and time again, and the piercing side is only helping him do that even more effectively now, but these are risky engagements though. Yes, he's outstacking his opponent, but we know how easily a fight like that can go wrong.
However, with the piercing sight and Ghost Walk down, Spart1e just has to do things the old-fashioned way and makes a perfect read on base dropping down towards that light armor. It does give Spart1e an opportunity to continue to pressure. Needs to try and take this heavy, lovely rocket, and it keeps base away! And the extra time allows him to collect. And this is going to be a hard comeback to make now for base. However, the double, the combo, the mega keeps him alive, but the second rail is even better.
60% rail, Spart1e. Revving that engine, finally getting up to speed, but sticking around just a moment too long. Good damage delta. I wonder if base is going to want to rush in, even if he knows that Spart1e doesn't have any weapons to work with. Oh, Spart1e leaves. No! Spart1e leaves 0.1 of a second too early. Heavy spawns just behind him, and that allows base to take them both. Now there's only 90 seconds left to work with, so Spart1e probably already thinking about the defensive game. Good use of the Ghost Walk, or rather the piercing sight.
That was a really risky play. If Spart1e had a rocket of any capacity, that would have been a much larger risk to take as base pushes forward. So much LG. I mean, yeah, he's only got 10 cells left. That's a lot of damage. Objective complete, I think.
The positioning. Like the micro changes in Spart1e's positioning on top of those stairs to avoid the damage when base was just pushing with rockets. That was just expertise to the max, and now base has no choice but to drop down onto that LG. And Spart1e is going to make that frag work. And with 40 seconds for 4 kills, I think this one's done and dusted. Spart1e will at the very least secure himself one map against base.
And a thoroughly hard-fought map. A hard-fought series. Either of these maps, any of the maps that we've played could have gone either way. Spart1e has played such an incredible day. But base, it is that instant adaptation that allowed the tide to be turned early enough that the full comeback is always able to be made. And base up for the task, as always. This was a very, very fun start to the day.
Lots of energy. Lots of frags. It will be base securing a 2-1 victory, but indeed, hard-fought is the right term to describe this series. This absolutely could have gone either way. Spart1e started off so strong on every one of the maps, getting an early lead time and time again. But base, like you said, he adapts, he stabilizes, and slowly grinds his way back into it. Spart1e just not always able to keep hanging on to that control that he establishes the way that he should. And then there's a few of these fights that just don't go his way, that just end up going wrong. He gets bounced to bad rocket, and you can tell that it frustrates Spart1e. So That one map win at the end was very deserved, but it's just a sign of what more Spart1e is really capable of.
I think that first frag of this map was my favorite frag of the day so far. I mean, there was so much that was put into that, whether it was down to brain, execution, the fact that it started with a gauntlet battle. Who knows? But either way, an opportunity for Spart1e to very much continue his running theme in Pro League, which is that even if he doesn't get the series win, it's very likely he gets a map because his losses are narrow, which means that victory could always be there. You know, if one or two small little things were different. But it's more, I think, a testament to Base and his absolute experience and discipline coming through. This was a super high level start to the day, and thank you to both players. That was a good time.
I mean, Base beat Cooler 3-0 just last week. Now he's taken out Spart1e as well, so this is a really strong start to the third stage for the B100 player. Congratulations, Base. Looking forward to see what else he can do this stage.
Right, so just like that, that is our first series done and dusted. For those that might have joined a little bit late, I know sometimes people join a little bit later on. Garpy versus Cooler was meant to be our first series of the day, but just due to some things I'm actually not too sure about, but I'm sure we'll be able to fill you in, was not able to start. Hey, thank you very much, production, for letting me know. It is, in fact, going to be our second series of the day. So now, we've swapped the order a little bit. It's Cooler versus Garpy up next. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.